What's going on, guys? Austin FFA here, or Luna. So today we finally have our 20K story. Crazy, crazy life story. One of the craziest that's going to be on my channel. Or not, maybe it won't be, I don't know. But, you guys, one of my most frequent asked questions, have you tried acid? Have you tried LSD? Have you done this? And I usually used to, I'm not going to lie, when I first started YouTube, I told people no. I was like, no, I don't do acid. Don't do it. I've tried it a few times. Quite a few of those times were very bad. If you want to see like another trip story after this, leave a like. You know, Basically, I didn't want to do a story about this on my channel because I didn't want to make anyone like think that they should go out and do it. So I'm gonna before I start the story, I'd like to say before you watch this, acid, I do not condone the use of it. I don't think you should go out and do it just because you watch a video on it. And make sure, stay away from it. Stick to weed, nothing but. So anyway, now let's get to the story. Okay, 1 year back, when I was at the very ending stages of being like a pothead where I used to smoke all the time. This was literally like 4 weeks before I had my panic attack that like made me stop smoking and stuff like that. So I had a particular friend who was a very big druggie. And when I say druggie, I mean like straight up, like he would do acid, he would do mushrooms, he would do stuff even worse than that. He was always just trying to get a quick buzz, and no matter how he got it, he wanted to do it. So, whether it was weed, if he didn't have weed, he'd go into something more intense, way more worse for you. And I always tried to get him to get off some of the shit, but you really can't. So I just had to deal with it. And he used to offer me stuff all the time, and I always used to say, nah, fuck that, no, like get that out of my face. So one day, it was 2:30, school just got out. I walked to his house after school, and he had, I'm trying to think of how many tabs he had. He had quite a few tabs of these acid, the LSD, and I didn't know anything about it at the time, like straight up, I don't know anything about it at all, like I really don't. I can't throw facts out there about it because I don't know. Back then, I used to think acid stayed in your system for years at a time, when I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I'm pretty sure it stays in your system for like a day or something. I don't know, but that could be wrong too. I don't know anything about this. So I was clueless going into the situation. Keep that in mind. That's why I'm such a noob. So he had shitloads of acid tabs, and I was convinced that he was selling them, but I guess not. I guess he just had a lot because he liked doing acid. So we got into his house, we were watching TV, smoking weed, and he looked at me, and he gave me like a grin, and I asked him, I was like, what's up? And he's like, so, would you ever be down to try LSD? And I was like, what, like, what? And he's like, LSD, acid, would you ever be down to trip with me? And I was like, dude, I don't know. Like, I said I don't know, because at this time, I was curious. I'm not going to lie, I was curious, and I wanted to try it, but at the same time, I was like, no, Austin, you're an idiot, don't do it, it's bad. You could have a bad trip, you could freak yourself out. And a lot of anxiety was really rushing through my body at this point. So I looked at him and I said, I don't know, maybe one day. He's like, what if that one day was today? And I was like, nah, I don't think so, man. And he's like, but what if you did? And he pulled out his wallet. And he said, what if you did? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, come on, just one time tonight, let's do it. And I was like, seriously, dude? Like, it's a school night. Like, it's a school night. Like, come on. He's just like, no, come on, man. Let's just do it. He kept laughing and saying, come on, let's just do it. And at this point, I wasn't like saying yes, but I was just laughing at him because he kept saying, come on, man. What if you did? Come on. I was laughing. And he said, come on, just seriously. So he pulled in his wallet. He had this little pocket where he would usually keep like a credit card. He takes out a few tabs of this LSD, and if you've ever seen a tab of them, they're like little paper squares, and they have little drops of LSD on them. And there's like 4 or 5 of them right there. And I didn't want to do like, I seriously told him, I was like, if I was to ever do acid, I'd only want to do like half of one. Like, I'm a pussy when it comes to this stuff. I'm really scared. I only want to smoke. And I was like, he's like, come on, dude, just take it. And he handed it to me. And at this point, I was like, dude, I'm not doing this unless we have a spotter. And if you guys don't know what a spotter means, it means someone who watches you guys trip while he stays sober and just like make sure everything goes okay. So the spotter came over. I asked for a spotter, and I called up a friend of mine who I could trust. So my friend came over, and we took the 2 tabs when he got there. So he was there for about 15 minutes before we did this. We blazed up before we did this, which I don't like to do. I don't think tripping and being high is a good feeling. So when I took this acid, I only took 1 tab, nothing else. I couldn't handle anything else. You guys know I'm a skinny kid. I'm a lightweight. I can't handle anything else than that. So I took one tab. I put it on my tongue, and people say sucking on it like helps the acid go quicker, but I just put it on my tongue, let it dissolve. So it took. I can't. Time was very choppy when this happened, but I remember a few moments later, like maybe half hour in. Not no. I'm trying to think. Maybe almost an hour in. I don't know. Maybe it was like really terrible shit, but. Moments afterwards, I remember being really spacey. I remember feeling a really weird high. Almost like you smoke weed, but it wasn't quite the normal head high, too. It was almost like a body high, too. Like, it was really weird. It was the weirdest experience, and many people say when they trip, they all have different experiences, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to relate to you, and relate to any of you on this. I just hit my hand, that hurt, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to relate to any of you on this topic, so I started getting really giggly at first. I was like, I don't know if that was just the weed kicking in, but I just remember being very, very giggly. And I started laughing at something. I think I stared at my friend, and he was like curling his hair. And I looked at him, I was like, you look like a girl. And he's like, shut the fuck up, idiot. And then we just both started cracking up. We were dying. And we were just laughing and laughing, staring at each other. We'd look away, stop laughing. We'd look back at each other, start dying again. We were just having a funny time, and the spotter he was making it way better. He was like laughing at us, and it was one big laugh fest for like the first 30 minutes. And that was probably just the weed, maybe, I don't know. I've heard other people say acid makes them laugh. So after like this passed, I was still really high. You know, little like bright vibrations seemed like my vision was going. Like it wasn't like tripping balls. I could see mushrooms everywhere. Like it wasn't anything like that. It wasn't some Alice in Wonderland shit. Like I said, I only took one tab, but one tab for me is kind of a lot. So I went to the bathroom. I remember I said I had to pee really bad after that whole laugh fest. I was like, you're gonna make me piss my pants. I have to go to the bathroom. So I ran in the bathroom, and I remember looking in the mirror at myself, and looking in the mirror was weird. Everything seemed very clear. It was just very clear. I feel like I could I felt like I could almost put my hand through the mirror and touch myself on the face. Like it was so vivid and weird. That's the weird thing about tripping. Sometimes people have weird experiences like this. So I started peeing, and I remember when my piss was hitting the water, I remember the echo of the sound it made. It was like, and it almost freaked me out. Like, I know this is really nasty for some of you, but like it was the weirdest. It sounded like I shut my eyes when I started. This was such a bad idea. I was peeing in the bowl, and I felt like it echo off the walls, and it made such a weird, trippy, like, sound to me. It was because the acid was in me. It was just, it sounded so different and so weird. And I just remember, like, almost feeling like I was at, like, a place with water. And it was, obviously I was at a place with water, but it was just, I felt like I was in some nature environment. It was so weird. And when I got done peeing, I remember standing there with, like, my dick just chilling there. I didn't even, like, I sat there for, like, a minute after I was done peeing, just staring at the water. And I was, like, taking a look at, like, I know this is nasty, but I was staring into the bubbles of the water. And, like, I was just like, wow, like, this is weird. Everything looks so clear. And I flushed the toilet. The sound kind of scared me at first. I'm not even lying. The sound creeped me the fuck out. And then I looked at the door. I remember I stared at the door for a good long, like, minute before I left the bathroom. And I looked at it, and it just looked so, like, weird, I remember. And I remember the wooden pattern on the door looked like it was slowly curving. The wooden pattern on the door, it looked like it was just slowly in, out, like making a line. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, and when that happened, that's when it kind of went bad. I looked at it, and I just started, like, freaking out. And I was like, oh, my God, what the fuck? Like, I started freaking out. And because, you know, when you see something moving that shouldn't be moving, it just creeped me out. Like, and I looked at it, and I was like, fuck this. And I immediately opened the door and walked downstairs. And I was like, I went downstairs, and I went to look at my friend and say, dude, I just had the weirdest experience ever. And when I went to look at him and say that, he had his hands down on his face. His hands were on his face. And it looked like he was crying. Now, when I looked at the kid who looked like he was crying, he just had his hands in his head, like in his head in his hands, sorry. And I looked over at the spotter kid. And the spotter was like, dude, I don't know what's wrong with him. He, like, looked like he was about to cry, and he just put his, like, face down in his hands. I don't know what's wrong with him. So at this point, I was just like kind of freaking out because, anxiety was really a factor in this. So when you're tripping, you can still think normally, like you're not retarded. And I remember circulating all these thoughts through my head, thinking, oh no, what if he's dying? What if he has to go to the hospital? We're going to get caught. We're going to get in trouble. I'm going to be responsible for this kid's death. Like, I was freaking the fuck out. And while these thoughts were circulating through my head, a panic attack induced. And if you have a panic attack while you're tripping, it is the worst fucking experience you will ever have in your life. It feels like you're dying. You can't control your heartbeat. You can't control your breathing. It's terrible. And that's where the trip went fuzzy. A lot of the adrenaline from the panic attack completely took over the LSD effect. And I was still tripping, but it was so dumbed down because of this bullshit panic I was having. And I was freaking out there on the couch for at least 10 minutes while this kid looks like he's crying. And I keep tapping on him like, dude, what's wrong? What's wrong? Put your head up. And he puts his head up, and the fucker is laughing. He's crying. He's literally like laughing so hard, he's crying. And I was like, what's wrong, man? He's like, oh, that was so funny. Oh my God. Since you've been in the bathroom, I've been dying laughing. And I can't really imitate what he sounded like, but he was fucking like voice all cracky. He was dying laughing. And I was like, oh, well, that's a relief. But still, since all of this adrenaline was already in my body, you can't just make it go away. If you've ever had a panic attack, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's when the adrenaline is, it's when you freak out so much to the fact that adrenaline comes in your like bloodstream. And, once your adrenaline's there, you can't get it away unless you go out and run like a mile. So I'm sitting here freaking out. My heart's racing, and I just don't know what to do. So I had to sit there and do breathing exercises for like a straight 2 hours. It was so bad. After like an hour, it dumbed down, obviously. The panic attack did, but it made the trip so much worse because it was still there. It was minor, but it was so minor because all that adrenaline was powering the LSD, and like, it was crazy. Just all of the adrenaline feeling in my blood, like, took over the feeling of the LSD, and that's why I didn't trip good. So, I mean, I guess you could say the first, like, hour of the trip was okay, but from that point on, it just dumbed down and was really shitty. So that's kind of, like, why I had, like, more of a bad trip, as people would call it. It really was bad, but, that's, honestly, after that, we had to sit through my friend's trip, which was, pretty cool. I got to see what it was, what he was thinking, and it was completely different from what I was thinking. We were thinking two different things when we tripped, but there was still some minor little, hallucinations, some audio tour. Like, I remember hearing some weird things, and like they weren't there. I'd hear something, and I'd be like, "Yo, you hear that?" They'd be like, "No," and the trip was still there. It was just really like hard to focus on the actual trip when I was focusing on my heart racing. And I remember I could like straight up hear my heart. I felt like my heart was out of my chest beating right in front of me. That's how tripped and fucked up I was. So honestly, moral of the story is don't do it. Like, don't go out and do this because you watched my video. As you can see, it's not really a great thing that could come of it. But some people have good trips, some people have bad. I've done it a few times, and I've had one good trip. So if you guys want to hear that story, comment, like. But yeah, I said if this video got a certain amount of likes, I would dye my hair. I don't know if I'm going to do that. It's got to get like a shitload of likes. But if you guys enjoyed my 20K special acid story, make sure you drop a like. This is probably one of the craziest stories I've had on my channel in a long time. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you leave in the comments if you've had any experiences that are crazy like this. And yeah, if you guys like my stories, make sure you go check out all my other ones. I have so many stories. And yeah, this has been Austin FFA or your boy Luna. Peace out.